All right, all right. It's day 5, so we are back, guys. Let me just put this everywhere. Just you can also let me confirm on your end if it's showing live. I think it should be showing now.
You mean on YouTube, right?
Yeah, yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think it's live now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit of delay initially, like at the beginning. So I think there's like a 5 seconds delay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me just put this. Yes, now image analysis I don't do since yesterday. I've been like, damn.
Software they use.
Imaging now, I'm trying
Okay.
to learn how to do co-localization. So I've been trying to watch YouTube tutorials on it. Michael, welcome. So uh, it's day 5. We should a round of applause for ourselves. We've made it this far. Just discussing. So please do well to put on your status. Invite your guys. Let's just put it everywhere. Yeah, I want to send it somewhere. Who else do I want to send this thing to?
To me.
The earth is full of your glory. So, Goshen, you are the newest. I think we're having like a couple new speakers today. So,
Yeah. When I
you're not,
got to when I
you're
saw
not
the
the.
shift, I was like, okay, on this date will be best for me because of grant writing and all that commitment.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, why we just take a couple minutes to put it everywhere? Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, for those that are joining us, thank you and welcome. It's good to have you guys again. Please, as usual, let us know where you are joining us from, and also please ask your questions, and then we'll be more than happy to address them. So we're just going to do a quick recap, like we've always done up until this moment. So some of the topics we've addressed from day one, maximizing undergraduate days. I think this was this like session. If you're an undergrad or you know an undergrad, which I think everybody does, please share it with them, and this would help them to prepare and position themselves very well before they graduate. Day 2, we had what's next after undergraduate graduation, and then we really dived into after positioning yourself, well, how can you leverage, how can you present yourself to the public, and taking advantage of things, resources around you. Finding the right passion. I think one of the main takeaway from this was the fact that sometimes we are our own limitation. We are the one that limit ourselves, and we can do better in really, will I say, opening our wings and exploring many options. And then day four, yesterday, we went through many scholarships, uh, talking about even if you don't have money, there are still scholarships you can apply for without money that can really help you fund your GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, and get you started in the application process. We also talk about navigating, talking about difference between like scholarship and assistantships, and also, I wanted to say deconvoluting the whole application process because it's not really that uh, complex. You just need to follow the step-by-step procedure, I guess. And here we are, day five, studying in Europe versus America. And I really, really want to bring our speakers that have, I don't have any experience studying in Europe, but I would say I have a very biased, biased opinion of Europe in sense of I just, I don't feel like, and maybe Goshen would defend them. I don't feel like they have the best education in Europe compared to the US. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have one of the top universities, like top researchers or stuff like that. What I mean is when you look at holistically, they don't seem to, there are only like very few universities that stand out in Europe. And then every other person seems to be like bottom of the ocean guys. Whereas in the US, there seems to be a very big pool of universities that can easily stand out in specific areas. And they can still be good at it. So that I think that's my bias with when it comes to Europe, studying in Europe, and the fact that they don't really have funding for their research. I think, not well, they have funding. You get what I'm saying, but their funding system is a bit complicated more than the way it is in the US. So I think that's my bias towards them. So for people that are joining us, I would like to introduce our newest speaker for today, Goshen, David, and for I can't pronounce your surname, so I'm not even going to try. You do it yourself. And for those of you that don't know, Goshen is also a celebrity on LinkedIn and Twitter. He also give us back to backs. Uh, so he's also a Commonwealth scholar, right? If
Yeah.
I'm right, yeah. He's a Commonwealth scholar, and we're actually in the same program in the same university. So I'm really happy to bring him here and to share with us. So yeah, defend UK. I know you spent some time there, and you enjoyed your time there.
Yeah.
What would you say about like you study in Europe?
Okay. Thank you so much, Kristen, for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for watching wherever you're joining from. My name is Goshen David Mitsu, MITEU Mitsu, like
Me
Mitsu.
too. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm happy to be here, happy to share my experience, happy to engage in the discussions, happy to answer your questions in ways I can. So yeah, I did my master's in the UK, at the University of Nottingham. And now I'm currently doing my PhD, at the University of North Dakota, like Christian said, PhD program in biomedical sciences. So yeah, I mean, this has always been like um a bone of contention. Okay, like
Mm-hmm.
Europe versus United States, which is better, which is not. So I would say that both countries are unique in their own ways. I mean, we can all agree that schools in the UK, schools in the US, they have like their unique modus of operandi. And so I would also say that one of the reasons why, I mean, I'll try and just oppose between Europe and American universities so that I'll give you a clear picture. So for instance, if you want to study a master's program in the UK or in Europe, we have postgraduate thought masters and we have postgraduate research masters. So the difference between both of them is that for the thought masters program, it's just for 1 year. For the research-based masters, it's for 2 years. Um, on the other hand, if you're coming to study a master's program in the US, most of the master's program are for 2 years or maybe more, depending on your situation or the nature of your study, right? So I guess the bottleneck is now which is more intensive, right? So people often look at, a 1 year master's program as, not like
As intensive.
not as intensive as, you know, the US, maybe because it's just for 1 year. Well, you can argue that, but I would say that it is it is intensive. Why? Because in that 1 year, you have no breaks. You literally have no summer break. You will literally have no Christmas break. I mean, they will tell you that you're on breaks, but you have projects, to do within that time. Probably have to be, say, for example, you're set to graduate like the next year. You'll definitely be in the lab, most likely doing your thesis or your, trying to complete your thesis. You know, Whereas in the US, you get summer breaks. You can travel if you want. You get Christmas break. You can travel if you want. But in the UK, it's more like you don't even have a choice because like that time is you're expected to commit that time, to your project, um, depending on the nature of your program. And another thing I would like to point out is why studying a master's program in the US seem intensive is that another reason is when you come to US, you don't dive straight into your research at the get-go. You have some courses
Coursework.
that
Yeah.
you're required to complete. Like same for PhD programs. That is why people would say, "Oh my God, PhD is very, very intensive," because you come and do. So I look at my senior colleagues in the UK, and I would now in the US, I would look at my senior colleagues and myself, and I'll be like, truly, truly, if you don't have good experience, you would think that masters in the UK is just a walk in the park. Well, you can say that, but then you would see that if you for a person doing a PhD in the UK, person is not doing any coursework from the get-go. The person is diving straight into the research. Like everything the person is doing is in the lab-based, focused presentations, focused on the specific dissertation or specific project topic. Whereas if you come to the United States, you have like, say for a PhD, you have like the first 2 years maybe trying to complete um, your
Coursework.
graduate required
Yeah.
coursework. And then you have other expectations like over here in the United States, while you are completing your coursework, you have commitment to the lab. You have to engage in seminars. You have to do presentations. You have to write essays.
Teaching assistants.
You know, and all these, kind of. I mean, you have to plan your time. You have to manage your time. Stress level increases because you don't want your commitment for one to, affect the commitment for the other. You want to find the balance between your coursework and your research. But then in the UK, you are just zoned in on your research, just my research alone, right? And then, I mean, there's little as you can do because even your funding mechanism automatically tells you what to do because in
Mm-hmm.
the US, you are mostly coming in as a TA or as an RA or maybe a fellowship, which is very cool. I feel like coming in as a fellowship with a fellowship is very cool because you have limited commitment to satisfy as regards like your stipend. But then if you're
Oh
coming
yeah,
as
yeah.
a TA or you're coming as an RA, you have to like maybe like grade student papers as a TA, maybe set up the classrooms, maybe engage in one or two lectures to undergrad, while you are also fulfilling commitment in the lab. Same as an RA, you have to commit certain number of hours in the lab, whether you're rotating or whether you've joined the lab. So, and then you have other commitment. I think the only time you get to zoning into your research is maybe in your third year in the United States when you must have completed like, all the required coursework, and then you just have the liberty of just, zoning in straight and concentrating on your research work. And
So,
then,
yeah, but go ahead. So, based on what you're explaining now, so it means I guess in the defense of people that be probably studying in the UK, one of the reasons they probably do their PhD for like 3 years is
Mhm.
because they dive in straight into their
Straight,
research.
they're just diving straight into the research. There is no coursework requirement. There is no you need to complete X amount of credits for coursework. So it's more like they are, acquainted with their research from the get-go. They start on troubleshooting, start on, trying to get data and everything, and kind of make the process seems faster. And people who don't know um the nitty-gritty of how, the US works in terms of PhD will think that people that are getting PhDs in the UK are doing nothing. Meanwhile,
But,
these guys are in the lab day in, day out trying to like make their research work. So I
but
just feel,
I don't know. I
yeah,
I still think I will hold my bias,
yeah.
and and I think one of the reasons I'll still hold my bias is the fact that I've seen those coursework as necessary. Let me put it that way. Now, because
So,
the coursework they make you do, it's not like, and that's why you see that in most universities in the US, they have umbrella programs that have other encompassing programs under them, and then you tend to like do coursework that only aligns with your research area or with your research interest, and that is to really make you an expert in the field. That
well,
is to really increase your knowledge in the field.
you
Now,
have
Thank-
talking about, yeah, I think
while
Michael wanted to say something.
I
That
just
was why
want
I
to
put
chip
it.
in something.
yeah,
Yeah,
So you have to know the fact that in the UK you can't do a PhD without a master's. So those
correct,
coursework are
exactly,
many of them oftentimes you have to do it in your master's. So you don't have to
exactly.
do it again. When the
My
US you can
point,
get into a PhD program directly without doing a
exactly,
master's. So you have to do those coursework and that's why it's
exactly.
longer.
Exactly my point, Michael. Michael just hitting it on the head. In the
but
US,
And good day,
okay,
Mr. Goshen. You're welcome.
hi,
Nice to see
but
Michael.
you.
Nice to
but
see
Nice to
you.
meet you.
Goshen, I've applied to courses in the US here that will tell you we can't take like even PhD that we can't take you without a master's,
I mean, that is just few
and
schools, or
they are still like 5 years long, like, and they will still tell you we can't take you without a master's.
I mean, most schools will take you without a master's. That is just
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah. I
smaller,
think it's more program specific.
yeah.
Because I remember I was trying to get into this school. It was Alabama. I think it was Department of Nutrition, and the head of the department like wrote to me, "Is like you don't have a master's, like we can't take you."
Yeah,
And I
so
was like, "Wait,
yeah.
this is US now. You guys should be able to take me. I don't need a master's." And they're like, "No, no, no. That they need a master's for you
Is
to be
it a
able to
master's
take
in a
that program."
specific field?
Yeah, in a related field
Yeah.
that is related to nutrition.
Yeah. So some programs, some programs can be that rigid, in
Yeah.
terms of.
An example would be MPH. So
Mhm.
for if you want to do a DRPH, a doctor, like get a degree, the DRPH degree, Doctor of Public Health, you need an MPH. For most schools, they'll tell you to have an MPH. So when you come in, you still have to take some required courses, but not all of those biostatistics and So DRPH is an example of a course in the US that would like you to have an MPH, Master of Public Health, before coming into. But for most PhD, research, and that's a taught masters. It's like an executive, it's for professionals. It's not a
Yeah,
research-based math. So most research, PhDs don't need the ones I've seen,
Right.
most generally.
Right.
But for in like Nigeria and the UK that use the same kind of system, as a matter of principle, you need to
You
have
need
a
a
master's
master's.
before you
You need
can
to have a
apply.
master's. Rarely would you. So I know one of my friends who like went into a PhD program in the UK without a master's. Rarely really happen. Like 0.1% um chances. And that is why um once you provide your master's, they don't really take it necessary for you to like start taking those courses over and over again. But then for US, most of the schools don't really even care whether you have a master's or not. Like they want to
yeah,
see your enthusiasm, they want to see your drive, they want to see how far you can think, they want to see your basic foundational knowledge and how then you want to apply. And that is why they subject us to taking some of these courses. Meanwhile, I've heard some students say that they can transfer some of their master's credits in the United States here to offset some of the required
oh
courses.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I think I have a couple people who did that even in our class. So like where I mean, they can reduce the number of credits unit they need to graduate since they've done some courses from like maybe their undergraduate degree or something like that.
Right. And you would agree with me that it would make the whole time less intensive for them because like
Yeah,
they won't be
definitely. I
in the
mean, if you
class.
have less courses to worry about, if you have less courses to worry about, definitely you
Exactly.
definitely worry less. But okay, so I think we've really dealt in terms of culture, not culture, but in terms of just the way the curriculum works. I guess that's what we've really been talking about. But do you think there's like there's difference in culture that you've experienced from like maybe the way students were doing things or faculties were doing things in UK university compared to the way it is in the US?
Are you still talking about academic wise, the way
Yeah, academic settings. Yeah,
so like for master's program, for example, I would say um you are not really what's it called? It's encourageable, but like you are not really mandated to like take part in seminars, presentations, like we do in the United States in some universities, maybe like in for example, in our university, for example, at least in a year, you
you
have
must
to
present,
you must present.
whether you have something or not.
Like you have something or not. So that kind of so whenever you begin a semester, you start thinking from the get-go, okay, I'm gonna present sometime this year. What do I want to talk about? What part of my project do I want to talk about? You start thinking, from the get-go. But as a master student in the UK, there is no we don't have a rigid structure like that subjects students to like present like at least a part of their project in
Oh,
a
okay.
year. So I guess like that is one what is it called, one difference is
Yeah, difference. Yeah.
another would be that in the United States, for example, one of the things most schools like doing, maybe not for all, is that for your master's or your PhD, if you are coming in without a PI supervision
Allocate.
from the get-go,
Yeah.
allocated PI from the get-go, you must engage in rotations, right? Where you would now get to choose your PI. In the UK, they would assign a PI to you as a master student.
Now I know where Nigeria got that mentality from.
I mean, you can plead your case. You can plead your case, but I
Wait,
mean,
my my lord,
get
my lord,
assigned.
please, I cannot do this research.
Right. I mean, and then you can't be too picky, as a master student. I mean, you can try, but um, you can't be like, overly picky because after all, you have limited time. But in the US here, you have the liberty to, go through like a couple of labs and see where you fit in terms of environment, lab culture, project to PI to and all. So those are two like major differences I would say in terms of how faculty relates to students. In terms of the lab culture, um, pretty similar. I would say as a master student, you are pretty dependent on um, your PI or maybe like the senior PhD student in the lab, or maybe like the lab tech, or maybe the lab tech.
Yeah.
But in the US, I think you have the liberty of if you're in a lab where you know the way the PI, the culture of the PI is that it allows you to do things yourself. It doesn't micromanage or whatever. You have the PI, you have the liberty to do things, as you please, kinda, as long as you know what you're doing. But in as a master student in the UK, you are most likely gonna just be under supervision.
Supervision all the
Just
time.
like it's a very limited time, so like they don't want to take chances. So most of the things you are doing is gonna be on direct instructions from someone in the lab. So I would say like those some of the cultures have cultural differences in terms of like how the lab is being run and how students relate with their supervisors or PIs, as the
Oh,
case.
okay. Thank you very much. I think at least you've helped me maybe learn more about the fact that UK goes straight into like their research, and I think yeah, that might justify the reason why they probably don't need to do 5 years like we do here in that case, and most of them have to come in with a master's. So, Oga Joshua, are you with us? Yeah. Uh,
Yes, Oga Christian,
yeah. I hope you forgiving me for yesterday. We'll keep it outside of this place.
that was a listing. That was a
What
listing.
happened? What
Don't worry,
happened?
we will not say it here. but but yeah, it's good to have you again.
Thank you,
And
brother.
Joshua have actually studied in Italy. I don't know
Wow.
if I'm saying it correctly, and also Czech Republic.
Right.
So he's well versed in the nitty gritty of European universities
No, no, no.
and their culture.
I don't know degree in European studies and European culture. Be coming down. Only two
Yeah, I mean,
there.
you
That's
spent like almost 4 years there, right? Like in
uh,
total
something
before
around
moving to the
three
US.
years. Well, we've been to the US. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're in a good position to enlighten us. I mean, I'm sure you've heard some of the things Goshen already mentioned,
Right.
and maybe you can just contribute to that and tell us how your own study started, moving from Nigeria to Italy. I think you went to Italy first, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
you went
Thank you
there
very much.
for cilantro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. Thank you, Mr. David. And thank you, Mr. Michael. Well, for me, one thing I learned when I was in Nigeria, one of my GS courses, then happens to be that education has three domains: cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. So I think I would capture my
Can,
experience
can
as
you
to
can you break it down?
yes, for sure. So for sure. So cognitive has to do with what
Dumb it down, dumb it down, dumb it down, dumb it down.
so the cognitive has to do with the mental work and the classroom activities, and the affective domain has to do with connection with contemporaries, with colleagues, with associate and others. And psychomotor domain has to do with what we're able to do with our hands, or what we're able to do with our hands, in the practical sense. So for me, cognitive wise, it was a very big shock going from Nigeria, going with the fellow. I mean, after getting the scholarship to go school in Europe, there used to be this saying as, if you could survive in Nigeria, you could survive anywhere in the world. And the education in Nigeria is tougher than, so I got to Italy, and surprisingly, I realized that, the Italian style uses 0 to 30 ordinal scale. So for you to have an A, technically an A, you need from 28, which is like 93. And that was a very big shock. Coming from Nigeria is 70. and, uh, and now what ought to be B in Nigeria, 60s, supposed to be the benchmark for passing, which is like E. So yeah, it took some time. I remember my very first time in class, because it was during COVID period at the time, 2019 or so, and we had this issue with getting visa in Nigeria. So I was joining the classes online in 2020, January 2020. So, but I couldn't understand a lot of things. I keep consoling myself that when I get to class, I would understand a lot of things. But the very first day I got to class, it's a course, it was a topic on in function analysis, it's a maths program. My brother, I was just in class. What I saw on the board was open bracket X comma D, and people started discussing this is a metric space. We could come some geometry, the boundary. This is not the math I was exposed to back in Nigeria. In
That
Nigeria, we
it was at that moment he knew.
You.
everybody, where are they talking from? What is going on in their head? They are seeing some geometry. I can only see
Uh,
D on the board. Somebody is seeing some geometry. Somebody is seeing some boundary. Somebody is
may your
transporting.
may your eyes of understanding be enlightened.
It wasn't enlightening at the time, my brother. So, and the funny thing then is, my bachelor was in physics, so most of my contemporaries are in maths back home. Very fine mathematicians back home. Guys, how far? Tell me now. How were you guys able to understand real analysis, functional back home? They keep telling me you have to cram. Like those boys I saw in class, I don't think those guys cram. These guys have good understanding of this abstract branch of maths, and I would say it took some time, a lot of background work. Pick some undergraduate analysis textbook at night, study, do functional because of the day, just to have a good mastery of that. But it took some time. But after some time, I finally got stable, and I saw that unlike Nigeria, where many of our guys want to do applied mathematics for PhD level and everything. We have a lot of, typical Europeans whose flair happens to be in pure maths. They want to work on differential geometry, algebraic topology, what we consider very abstract. So, and I finally fell in love in that, but it took a lot of time for me to. But I don't want to make generalization. Maybe I'll say for mathematics, the story was totally different from my own kid's sister, who did something around, what was it called? This is something around public health. She went to Europe, and the young guy had like 3.9. I mean, where some of us even struggle to have 3.5. I mean, when converted, because Czech uses this 1 to 4 ordinal scale. So the closer you are to 1, the better the results. So
Yeah,
like
I
somebody
think the first time I found out about that, I was in shock because I remember I think I was also trying to apply to maybe Czech Republic or something,
okay.
and then I went to look for their grading system. So I was like, obviously my CGPA is like 4 point something. So when I went there and I saw this thing is in reverse order,
It's
I was
a
not like this my CGPA does not stand a chance
yes,
because I think you mathematician probably help me. If you're doing a reverse conversion, it tends to really eat into your CGPA more than if you're like maybe scaling it up.
but it's something, it depends like that. So it wasn't funny actually then. So my sister, I was scared for the young lady all through, but surprisingly, she was eating 1.1, you know what I'm saying, 1.2, So I feel that maybe for courses, I don't want to. I'm still saying again, caveats. I'm not talking as an authority right now, but just from personal experience. Like maybe for courses where I just have to read and read, maybe that could be fine. For courses that involve proofs, you'd be so surprised that the Europeans might,
So so
might
what do you think? What funding were you on when you like
So I
moved
was
to?
an Erasmus scholar at the time.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
And
So
how do you think that compared to maybe being in the US now that you're in the
it's
US
different.
doing mathematics?
So in Europe, I wasn't compelled to be a teaching assistant grading several papers. You know what
I
I'm
think that was
saying?
one of yeah.
You just get your money and do your study and you're
Comfortable.
fine.
Like,
Not this one. This one you'll be paying. You have to do. But I mean, for those of us in mathematics in the US, you have to do recitation, prepare for class like I'm a professor, go teach students, then come back and start grading 40, 50, 60
right.
pages every week and writing feedback. You should have solved it like this. You should have taken X to that. My brother, how now? Why?
It's your
Looking like the
time.
money. Look like money is not
You
free,
you
technically.
guys should not discourage Victor.
Oh, so Victor is Victor in Europe. Victor in Europe.
Yeah, Victor is. I think you're also in Czech, right?
Oh, Victor in Czech.
Yeah, you're muted.
You're muted.
Sweden. Oh, I think is that Sweden or
Yes,
Sweden?
I'm in Sweden. Sweden.
Oh,
Yes.
where student are you? Are you in Castad? Are you in Stockholm? Where? Are you
Lund.
South
Lund.
African?
Lund.
I didn't get that.
Lund.
Look, I think I've heard of Lund. Yeah, there's a university in London. Nice to meet you.
It's
So
close to
it's
Malta.
two different ball
But
games.
don't worry, we are bringing Victor to the US.
Yeah, so actually that's the cognitive part. For the affective part, meeting people, I realized that the whole setup was totally different. I know there was a girl I was crushing when I was in Nigeria. She was studying nursing science. She would keep asking me, "What do you want to do with your physics degree?" I told her, "Well, I'm going to do a PhD in engineering and get my master's in." She told me it's a lie. You will teach physics, and I can't marry a teacher. That thing touched me. The story was different in Europe. The
Yes.
very first day, an Italian lady met me and she gave a ride and she asked what I was studying, and I thought I was studying mathematical engineering. I mean, my guys that are in Europe, I mean, if you met with Italian, they have a lot of adjectives to qualify a lot of things like che bello, molto bene, bellissimo. Like, brother, sister, calm down. When I told the lady I was studying peace back home, she only saw a teacher. What are you,
I always do.
what are
Yeah.
you seeing that I'm not seeing? You know what I'm seeing? So, so,
I
so,
think
so,
I think that's more of a perspective problem.
right. Right. So it got up right when I got to check, and I started speaking, like some of us said, but it was JAM that led us to physics, studying physics and maths. When you couldn't make it to engineering, find your way to physics and math. But I spoke with few Europeans, like, come on, at what point do you want to study maths? And they started telling me that, well, immediately their parents realized that they were very good at maths and physics. They enrolled them in, what's it called, gymnasium. Victor, I don't know if you've heard of gymnasium, and it's like some special school and they teach you maths and physics and so you no longer going on to be a science, like, wow, that's amazing. Where we came from is where you can't make it to engineering that you don't want to stay the following year.
JSS 1A,
It's
B,
quite,
and C.
it's
There's
quite
already
funny.
class.
You
A
get
is science,
Yeah.
B
you
is
can
arts, C
It's
is
quite funny
humanities.
here because I don't know if it's the same way where you are, Joshua, because
okay. I mean,
here,
Chicago now.
what happens is that after you are done with the high school, then you go to gymnasium.
Yeah,
Gymnasium. They call it
yeah.
gymnasiate here.
Okay,
So
but
I
let me
think
call
you
it
do for
gymnasium
like
check.
I think for like a year or 2 years, then you kind of like focus on what you really, really
Yeah,
want to do before you go to the university.
right.
Yeah. So I
we,
mean,
we,
the
we were
first
doing,
time,
we are doing jam.
Ah,
mm, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, I think the entire like the educational system in Nigeria, for example, needs to change because I remember telling them that I did biochemistry and molecular biology for my bachelor's, and in OAU actually, just like Christian. And
Like me too.
and doing biochemistry and molecular biology in OAU was kind of like crazy because you were doing everything. You were taking courses from different
You borrow anything,
yeah,
borrow it.
you were borrowing so many courses from different departments.
even
I
GS courses were
remember,
2 units though.
yeah,
You even took GS courses like our core course. I was studying sociology, taking psychology, learning philosophy.
Fala-
it
fallacy
was
of
crazy.
fallacy of generalization. No,
I
That's of
went,
hasty generalization.
eh,
You will do
it's
technical drawing, Christian.
yes, because we went to FUTA, we had to do technical drawing,
So
and
weird.
it's not like all these your regular I'm saying standardized technical drawing that you have to pass.
Are you serious? You guys did all this auto something projection?
We didn't do it up to the level of AutoCAD and all those things, but
No,
at
no,
least we
okay.
did like
First time
preliminary
view.
Take
level
your
like
board to
technical
class
drawing.
with your A3D paper,
Wow,
Yes,
you know,
like
and do all the
measure the
mechanical
angle,
drawings. And it was 3 units.
yeah,
wow,
so you can't fail it.
wow.
We even did agriculture. We used to plant for FUTA at that time,
So I had.
and you can't fail it. You can't. How will you fail planting?
So I had.
People fail it, just for the record.
I mean, so
you
so
know,
for
I
I was
mean,
talking about the affective part. So surprisingly, I saw different views. So it was later on, and that plunged me to do some studying, and I saw that the whole storyline there is so different. So I saw the place of scientists during the Second World War, how even Hitler was able to, how this guy was able to pledge allegiance to Hitler, the Nobel laureate, Winner Eisenberg, and it was it was a guy that was very much in charge of the guy in charge of the atomic what's it called energy stuff in Germany, Nazi Germany. Meanwhile, in the US, Robert Oppenheimer was a key guy who was a theoretical physicist and was able to bring other top guys, John von Neumann, Stanislaw Ulam, Enrico Fermi, many of them. So I now saw the view like, oh yeah, it's so different. Here, scientists are like scientists. Back home, brother Chinedu that study physics, we know it's one only tutorial, jam tutorial. I mean, I'm teaching math in one secondary school. So I couldn't blame, the society that just,
You can't
so,
blame the lady that saw you as a teacher.
sincerely, if I'm in Nigeria, I'll be teaching physics now, teaching Newton's law. So it's
But
also
but
different.
you guys mentioned something. I think for guys that are studying in Europe, the gymnasium thing.
Yeah,
I don't think we have that in the US. I'm not sure. I've not seen something like that in the US. However, I do know they put priority on like special kids.
Mhm.
Like if they say that you're different, they can easily like catch you and
Christian,
really force you to do it. But I've not heard of something like that.
yeah, they don't have that. But you can always switch in the US. Even when you're in third year in college, you can leave theater arts to sciences. You can leave biology to dancing. You can move around in the US.
Right. I think I know of a guy presently, like Michael said, who is doing history, and his father happens to be a medical doctor, and they've been begging him all these days. What do you want? I mean, father happens to be a medical doctor, mother happens to be a nurse. They've been begging him all these days, he just to study history. I have to talk to him. take him through some physics classes and something like that. Surprisingly, this young boy is in his third year and he's taking physics one. I'm like, oh, that's very nice in the US. I don't think it's gonna happen in Nigeria anyway. Like, who born you from Faculty of Arts? You're going to Faculty of Sciences, even those in science are sweating every day of their life. So I think for the affective stuff, I later realized that the Europeans I interacted with, because I was also in France. I was at the University of Lille this year for a summer training. And I was also at the Common School of Advanced Studies. And all these I met with mathematicians, engineers, and I saw that the view was so the perception about these programs are quite different from what we have back home. And because of that, I mean, I had a very good experience affective wise. So, but I would still say that the European community is very much meritocratic. I mean, my opinion, in the
than
sense
the US.
Oh, Europe is actually, in my opinion, Europe is heavily meritocratic in the sense that you see something like, if somebody you I don't know if Victor or David had this experience, but like in mainstream Europe where I was, you would so surprised that we invite you for a date today. Oh, Christian, can we go for a date? And you go for that date. And conversation will be cutting from what happened in World War I, World War II, what was the place of your country during the war, what were you guys doing?
What was the place of my country in World War I?
This kind of thing, asking questions.
We were sleeping.
And I don't know.
We did not have any place.
You get, you'll be so surprised that after that conversation, two things will happen. Either they see tomorrow on campus and they feel like they don't even know you, they won't even greet you,
No.
Or
But I think that's a typical American thing now.
I think I might be wrong, but every conversation I've seen, American is, the weather is bright today, blah blah, just regular thing. These guys will be engaging intellectually, like, oh, so do you read about John Stanislaw Ulam? He was from Poland. What can you say about him? Like, bro, how now? I thought it's just a beer out, a coffee outing. What's leading us to?
I know Daily Farity.
What is leading us to John Von
It depends
Neumann,
on your
Stanislaw
circle,
Ulam?
yeah.
It's like, look at me now. You know what I'm saying? I'm just surprised that you see these guys following you on campus. Either of these two things, which are from my experience, is that either the following day you guys will get close and there will be requests for more dates, then after some time you guys will be friends. Or they will just see you and they'll be like, but bro, we're together yesterday. Say hello now. Bro, I'm greeting you, just love you. So I think for that I came to that conclusion, and that these guys can be very much meritocratic in this. And I had experience with this with few Italians like that. When classes started, then I used to be this guy that, when I finally stabilized in second semester, I ask question in class, I contribute. So this girl was holding me in very high esteem. In fact, sometimes when I don't have solution, because she was holding me in high esteem, I call her, she'll send a solution to me with the hope of I'm going to vet, but I was just copying. God be my witness. I was dubbing with pride. So we had this.
But I want to make a clarification. Maybe we will not call the UK as part of Europe now because they're already.
No, it's still part of Europe. It's not just part of the European Union. I mean, we can't.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I just want to make sure we are technically correct in saying that. I think I want to ask a question. I know the UK is just like an advanced Nigeria. I was still seeing on Instagram today that they have Oshodi market in the UK. So it's like, I don't think you would miss they see that Nigerian vibe because you are just in class with Tosin, Bayo. Like, those are the people that are still in your class, if I'm right. I think that's the way I see the UK, sincerely. And maybe if I'm wrong, you can change my opinion. Compared to like maybe France, where I would not expect that.
You'll be so surprising. You'll be so surprised in France. I mean, Christian, when I touched down at Charlie de Gaulle Airport in France, I thought I was in Africa. Blacks everywhere. Absolutely blacks everywhere.
You went to downtown.
No, I was in Paris. I was in Paris. I was in what's it called? I was at the University of Leeds. Blacks everywhere. And the funny thing is, the blacks they're not even they're not blacks that are.
But yeah, Goshen, do you think that was different for you? Like, in terms of the fact that you still had like a huge Nigerian community or like an African community?
I think so. I was in Nottingham, to be fair. So I think in my city, I would say like I had the Nigerian community was very rich. I think I had surprisingly, my cohort was one of the largest cohorts so far for my program. We had which had never happened before, we had about 50 students coming to study biotechnology at the University of Nottingham. So actually, Nottingham is one of the top schools to study biotechnology. So for that year, surprisingly, they had about 50 students. So out of 50 students, we had different scholars. So we had, I think we had about two, three, maybe two Commonwealth scholars, two, three Commonwealth scholars. And then we had PTDF scholars still from Nigeria, about maybe five of them. And then maybe like two, three other rounds. So we had a total of, say, I would say maybe like 10 to 12 Nigerians out of 50 students, which was,
It's a great number.
yeah,
Very great, very great
yeah.
number.
So like, I mean, we related well in class, and even the external Nigerian community was very good too. So I would say, yeah, I still had that kind of you know, home kind of feeling. I didn't really miss Nigeria that much.
So
Um,
I think we've covered like maybe talking about culture, and I think Goshen really touched on expectations also. That the lab expectation is a bit different. Academic expectations are also very different. I think the one we probably touched on is maybe funding a little. I just want us to really touch on that before we maybe transition into like the next topic points. So I just want, I mean, for guys that studied in the UK or Europe, like what funding did you use to study there? Like what funding method? Were you funding yourself? Or did you win a scholarship or something like that? So just touch on that quickly.
For me, I was an Erasmus scholar.
Babao,
Calm
so
down,
much
but
for the man.
yeah, I
how many countries did you go to? I know they have like two, three.
so for the Erasmus program, it's either joint degree or double degree. So if it's joint, I mean, take for my program. So my program had joint and we have double degree. So for joint, we will convert to Italy first semester. The second semester for the joint guys, they went to either Germany, University of Hamburg, or Technical University Vienna in Austria. Then in their third semester, they went to other University of Nice in France, or some went to UAB, University Autonoma of Barcelona, or some came back to L'Aquila in Italy. For those of us that were enjoyed the double degree, so we spent like 1 year in Italy, like finished like a 2 year program. It was a lot. Then we went to, then from there you get a posting to either Poland, Czech Republic. Some of my guys in Sweden, University of Stockholm, I think there's a school in Stockholm. I don't know. Sorry, Castard.
I just have one issue with Erasmus moving from one country to another within 2 months. I find it disturbing.
It's so crazy. You're adjusting to like
You
each
know,
year.
just adjusting. You're telling me to move
Yeah.
to that is
Well,
what.
I mean,
Oh,
I guess that's the nice thing about Erasmus. You get to experience different cultures while you are studying.
okay, so Victor, you can go next. I've not had the opportunity to introduce you. So
Yeah.
Victor and I think we've known each other for like a couple of years now. I didn't even know he was into sciences initially, actually. But then I think now he's a big man on bioinformatics and he's doing life sciences. So it's good to have you here, my brother.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Okay, so well, in my case, I was kind of like lucky. I got two scholarships to study in Sweden. So I got one, which was like the most prestigious in Sweden at the time, which is the Swedish Institute
Yeah.
scholarship. Yeah, and then I also got another scholarship from the university as well. But Sweden, in their very reserved way and not having to give too much merit to people, they decided I have to take one out of the two
You
scholarships.
two, now only one you need now.
Yeah, now I have to take one out of the two, and then I went for the Swedish Institute scholarship for global professionals. Yeah.
Nice. Goshen.
Oh, okay. So I got the Commonwealth Scholarship, the most prestigious in the world, I would say.
That's
Uh,
prestigious.
we've got like over 70K alumni across different countries. We've got like alumni doing great
So
things.
guys, for all the people watching us, you can see that we are not bringing any out people here. Just so you know, let me put it out there. That you can see that their CV is in full ground. It's cross-continental. And I say this to say, I know some of us are aspiring, and I'm talking to people that are watching now. You're still aspiring to either be here and even be greater. You can see that people have done it, so it's not far-fetched. Let me just put it that way. And I think that's really one of my goal with AfterLife Initiative is that people can see that this thing can be done.
Mm.
And for me, I think that that's something that really reinforced in my mind that when I see people do something around me, it just really, really reinforced in my mind that it can be done. And I just want to say this. I don't know, Victor, one of your friends is doing a shout out to you in the chat. Uh, Adra Nadine. I hope I'm getting
Yeah.
that name right. But she's saying hi. So it's good to have your guys joining and and just hear us talk about these things.
Shout out to
So
Adra.
yeah, she's hearing you. She's hearing you. So I think the next part is then looking at curriculum wise. I think that's really something I want us to talk about, like best fits. Do you think? Because sincerely, and I'll say this being a core US guy, let me put it myself. I think on this group I'm the core US guy. Michael is probably with you guys because he too was looking for Erasmus up and down.
Oh, are you serious?
So I think I'm the only core US guy. I never applied to any European scholarship at all because I just knew I wanted to come to the US. So it was not like, in my mind, there was not like Erasmus or anything. I was so. I applied to Erasmus, but it was just by my guys are doing it, let me do it. I never really wanted it. So, as the core US guy, I want to say that US have a better curriculum. And my conclusion is the fact that all of you that studied in Europe, you are now here. That's my facts.
Yeah, that's
I want to ask you one question.
defend against that.
If you had gotten the Commonwealth scholarship
Yeah,
for a
And
PhD
yeah,
in the UK
yeah.
and a PhD
In the US.
which would you have picked?
I think it would depend on which university I'm going to at that time.
Say, for example,
If I was going to an Ivy League in the US,
top Ivy League in the US, top Ivy League in the UK, or top.
I'm coming to the US straight. I want to. That's not even like a debate in my mind. I'm serious. Now, obviously, there's one of the reasons is I think I've always admired Ivy League in the US. I feel like if I look at the UK, a few universities I would say, okay, I want to be in the UK would be Cambridge and Oxford. Aside from those two, the list is gone. Like, sincerely, in my opinion, I don't think I see any other school in the UK. Now, but in the US, guy, I want to go to University of California. Like, I want to visit everywhere. All the universities, all the UCs.
UCs.
I want to go to Harvard. I want to go to Stanford. I want to
But
go to Princeton. I want to go to Cornell.
But Ivy Leagues, we have Ivy Leagues and we have our run universities, right?
Yeah.
It's still like.
No. All the Ivy Leagues in the US are all hard ones. Like, they're all top.
But there are some hard runs that are not Ivy Leagues.
No, we only have eight Ivy Leagues in the US, and we have
some hard runs are not Ivy Leagues.
Many of them.
Yeah. So many of the R ones are not Ivy Leagues.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of R ones.
There's a lot of hard
Now what I'm saying is when you go to an Ivy, it's really different. So if I'm to like have opportunity to maybe go to the UK
for the prestige.
So let's say, for example, I got an admission, Commonwealth, maybe to Oxford, and then a scholarship to go to Stanford. Sincerely, I'm going to come to Stanford, especially for a PhD program. Now, the reason why I'm even saying that is because, for example, I'm going to be looking at the long-term goal, what I want to do after. I want to be able to work in a place where there's abundance of funds, and also there is easy network. Now, the US easily provide those things because the NIH is the most funded body in the whole world.
The NIH,
yeah, it's the most funded body in the whole world, like most funded. And they pump most of this money into just getting core research done. That's really what they do. And guess the guys that got a chunk of those money, the Ivy Leagues, they are the one that take a chunk of those money away from you already. So our school is just going to try and get whatever is left from those things. So for me, I think that speaks to it, like for itself. I have friends that are studying in Oxford that don't have funding, and they're doing PhD.
There are definitely people that are studying in Ivy Leagues here without funding too.
But definitely. But if you're doing a PhD research in an Ivy League university, I can bet that 75 to 80% you have a funding. If you don't have a funding, you can get a fellowship because you're in an Ivy League.
I would say
the prestige speaks for itself. That's the way I think about it. And like I said, I'm a very biased US person.
You are too biased because we both know of a senior colleague who, finished very well in our school and is now working in an Ivy League. So what are you saying, bro?
Yeah, working in an Ivy League. working in an Ivy League is different.
Yeah.
It's
So,
different.
but
So
you're
I'm
trying
not.
to make it seem as though that studying an Ivy League equates you getting a very, 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 good position in the
No,
end.
Oh
but
yeah.
question, I
Oh
think,
yeah.
I think, I
Definitely.
think
It's,
Christian is
That
it's
just
like a direct correlation.
there's a direct correlation in studying in Ivy League and actually being successful. Sure, we can actually look it up like right now. Half of the guys that are on Wall Street and Silicon Valley, most of their top guys are from Ivy Leagues. The ones that didn't go to Ivy League that made it there eventually go back to Ivy League.
yeah, I mean, Goshen, I mean, I am tempted to agree with Christian, but I feel it's going to be a slap to my intellectual training. I mean, my my what's it
Let
called?
me slap your intellectual
Educational
training.
training
Yeah.
to accept his claim without being objective, as you know.
I don't
So
want to be objective.
so the thing is,
You guys are the proof. I
no
said it.
no 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 no
Defend against
no
that.
no no
You
no
are here
no
in the
no no no.
US.
Christian, God be my witness. At the time I
You
was
went to Los Alamos.
wait,
This guy,
I worked at Los Alamos. So I mean
if you're not in the
that
US,
was what I was tempted to Goshen.
So I have a different reason, Christian, why I'm in the US.
Goshen,
this this
Goshen.
guy.
So at the time I was running up with my masters in Czech. In fact, I wasn't even thinking of US. My 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 biggest school I was looking up to was TU Berlin. I mean, European guys, Technical University Berlin. That was like the Ivy League I could think of in my head. I met with some TU Berlin guys in France, and those guys they are on another level. Very smart guys. TU Berlin, TU Munich, University of Rome, La Sapienza. I mean, École Polytechnique in France, Sorbonne, and those are like my key stuff then. But what I saw about it, I turned in an application, and I remember I got rejected from what's it called, Berlin. I had no choice than to send an email like, on what premise? The guys that wrote my reference, Professor Francesco Daliso that wrote my reference, is like one of the top continuum mechanics professor. I mean, this academia ranking, I don't know, I've forgotten that's academic, that's something ranking. Daliso is like number 6 when it comes to mechanical engineers in Italy. I mean, I got a reference from this kind of guy, so why didn't I make it down there? And the response I got from the university then was that we were like 99 that applied. There were only 6 positions, And I know for free, like Christian said, I think it's gonna take extra effort for them to pick a non-European. I mean,
Yeah.
at least that's what I feel. I might be wrong. My claim might be wrong, but yeah. So then I also tried Australia, University of Sydney, which is like one of the Ivy Leagues there. If there's something like that.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I got Sydney. I got Sydney. Then I wasn't even thinking of the US. It's just a friend of mine who happens to become my what's called at the time. That reached out like, oh, she attended my school's webinar, and they said they had 5 positions for PhD candidate, and she felt at the time that my profile is sufficient to compete. She was also a mathematician then, and very, 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 very distinguished human being. Then I tried my luck, and I was invited for interview, and they asked me questions in mathematics, and boom, I got it. So at this time, I was left between coming to the US and going to Australia. Australia would have me to get my PhD in 3 years, and this US where we're still having back and forth on, will you transfer my credit so I can do 4 years? Will you transfer this? Or we'll transfer 30, we'll transfer 20 and everything. But at this point, I was praying to God, and one thing I actually that was the premise for my conclusion, for my inference then was I went on Quora and I saw people's testimonial. Some guys said that they had PhD in Australia, in Europe, and they came to the US. They got postdoctoral fellowship very easily. But getting tenure track, I mean, for those out to be in the academia, getting tenure track was a very big issue. Was a very, very big one. Like, if you're not getting your PhD if your PhD is not from the US, getting a tenure track position might be something, except you're very exceptional from Europe. And it was on that premise I cut out Australia, then I chose it. So going to Los Alamos, like Christian said, like that was like the biggest national lab in the US, maybe one of the biggest, let me say. But that was where the atomic bomb was made. I could remember that most of the guys that were 200 I was in joint school division, but we're 2,000 in the intern for everywhere, Georgia Tech, UCLA, UC Berkeley, MIT. So and they keep telling us that you guys are the next generation scientists, you guys are the next. So you guys, in a way, they are recruiting these big boys, big boys.
So one thing you need to understand is it's a psychological grooming.
Right.
They don't make it like clear cards, and that's why you see that even the top of the top student want to be in those school.
Right.
Like those school consciously just recruit those set of people. Now, are there families that obviously can pay the huge money to put their child there, even if their child is like one of the dullest in the world? Yes. And the reason why they will even do that is the fact that they know that when, like we say in Yoruba, that if soap and leaf stay together for a long time, one go chat on to the other. Now, if you put a dull person in a scenario where everyone around that dull person have like an IQ of over 150, 160, there's something that starts to rub off on them and their thinking mentality. There's a mindset they start to go into. For example, maybe some of us in Nigeria probably know him. This guy that contested for Lagos State governorship, that went to MIT or something. He
Forgotten his
is
name.
Gbadebo or something like that. He went to one of these
Bible is
Ivy
Bible.
leagues. Yeah, he went to one of these Ivy leagues, and you can see how that affected his thinking, like his mentality. His wife is like a top scientist, and they met in what Ivy leagues.
I went to
So
MIT.
I say that to say now, sincerely, and I think that's very similar to, for example, I think yesterday me and Michael were talking about Rhodes scholarship also. In Rhodes recruits only the first class of first class. Like the qualifying CGPA alone is 4.7 out of 5. It shows you that for you to even get into the clique of becoming a Rhodes scholar, they've screened you so much, and that's why you see that Rhodes Scholar has very limited university you can go to after you win that scholarship. Is either you are in Oxford or Cambridge. Like it's so limited because they cannot give you that scholarship and go and put you in Sheffield. That's really
It's
it.
a
Like,
big kid, bro.
yeah, you get what I'm saying. They can't give it to you and then say, oh, let's go and put this person in that folklore or some unknown place in the
But those
UK.
schools are prestigious, Christian. Please debunk
I'm not saying they're not
that.
prestigious, but I guess the other thing I also, maybe you guys can then talk about it, is I think the US also, there's a curriculum difference in the US and the UK in terms of UK, they tend to have very specific curriculum, whereas in the US you see these umbrella courses like, oh, there's just one department and then there's many things under it. But in the UK, I don't know, I've not studied it, but at least I've checked some of the UK schools curriculum. They seem to be very streamlined courses. Like if you are in this field, this is what you're doing. Like that's what. But people in the US tend to get into many things. Like you guys said, you can move from biology to start doing fine arts even when you're like close to the end of your third year, and then no one really cares in the US. So what will you guys say about that in terms of just having niche-based courses or having umbrella courses? Now that you're experiencing umbrella courses like in the US, comparing that to having a niche-based course that you probably do in the UK or something like that. Or you think I'm wrong on the niche-based thing? I don't know. Victor, what do you think?
Well, I mean, for Sweden, it's a bit kind of like similar to what happens in, like in the other parts of Europe, where, sorry, in the US also. Like you said, that some people can actually leave certain field and then go to something else. And it's actually very possible. That is also very possible in Sweden as well.
Oh,
It's
okay.
yeah, it's also very possible. I've actually seen someone that actually did something related to journalism, doing PhD in bioinformatics now. So,
That one is a big switch.
yeah, I'm telling you,
It's a big move.
yeah, I'm telling you, it was, and the guy's so good,
Wow.
And when he was sharing his story, I was like, well, how is that even possible? He actually did something related to journalism, and he was actually working, doing journal as a reporter. And then he just got tired and was like, okay, I'm just gonna go back and do. And then he went to do his master's in molecular biodesign or something. And then now he's doing bioinformatics. So someone that didn't have any, bachelor's in
Background knowledge.
exactly. So it worked, and it's working because I've worked closely with the guy, and it's actually really good. It's
So,
really
so
good.
I guess maybe I should redirect a little bit in the sense that the coursework you had to do during your masters, were they very focused on the thing you were studying? Like,
Yeah,
or you
definitely.
had to do other things alongside? Because, for example, in my own case, we had to do immunology at some point, even though it was not like in my interest.
Mm.
We had to do courses that were not necessarily in our interest, just
Mm.
because they want to give us an holistic view of what the program is about.
Yeah. Okay, so I think in my case, there was a course out of all the courses we did, just one course out of all the courses we did that was kind of like science related, you know. But then they just wanted to have that course there so that in case if there are people that want to maybe like work for example, people that want to work in the lab after their master's degree, then they'll have the opportunity to use that course as a reference to getting that job. Do you understand?
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, exactly. So they included the like some experimental courses and some laboratory courses for people that probably after their masters they want to work as a laboratory technician or maybe like a laboratory analyst or something like that. So they actually included that one course there, so you can actually get a lot of knowledge of how to work in the lab, the
I think
CG.
that's a very sensible thing to do to
Yeah.
kind of certify everybody. Because sincerely, I think what we think about is in the long term. Like in the long term, where do I see myself? Where do I want to be? And I think Joshua, you really made a good point in the fact that if you really look at trends, if you let's say you get your PhD from the US, if you were transitioning to becoming an assistant professor and you think you want to end up in the US, it might be a bit difficult for you. You might have to end up go do a postdoc in the US before they would eventually allow you to transition into that position of becoming an assistant professor. But if you do your PhD in the US and do a postdoc in the US, trust me, you probably stand a better chance in actually in the whole race. Obviously, not like someone coming from Europe cannot beat you, but you just stand a better chance in the whole application pool. And that's something I think you put in mind even from like at the beginning of the journey, that okay, where do I think I want to end up? Where do I think I see myself at the end of the day? Because even though the experience might look very lucrative initially, it might misplace you in the long run. It might look lucrative, but it might misplace you. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use it to your advantage, but it might just be something that you now have to catch up. Because something you said, I just remember there's one of my lecturers here who is really good, but studied in Europe, studied in France, but then he had to move to the US and did a postdoc for a very long time
Yeah.
before he could even transition to like holding a PhD, holding like an assistant professor position. Same thing with my supervisor too. She was in the UK too, and she had to move to the US to do like a postdoc and then transition. So I think having that long-term plan in mind and where you want to, like that vision in mind, would really help you in making that decision. Like you said, it was one of the things that informed you to say, okay, I don't think I want to go to Austria and then have to struggle my way back into the US in looking for that new opportunity and probably get stuck on a postdoc. And then you're now like trying to now find what next. So, Ogashion, it's good to have you. Yesterday, I was showing your picture to the guys that joined. You're on the wallpaper of Education USA. Uh, so they are showcasing their boy. So it's good to have you once again. So I think you're muted though. So please unmute your
Thank you
mic
so
and
much. Thank you so much. I was talking. I totally forgot I was muted. I greet everybody, Dr. Goshen, Dr. Owolabi, Dr.
Yes.
Betuko.
Well, that is fine.
I greet everybody.
all,
Doctor.
All
all of them
protocols duly observed, sir.
all of them are for me on from top to bottom. There are some of us that will not smell any scholarship before like this. Some of them the institute, maybe the Sweden institute, they used to give you guys, they used to like knight you guys, right?
Night of
Night calls. What are you talking about?
Like
What
then
did
now,
you
like
say?
Night of
they used to give you
Lumumba.
guys, they used to give you guys like all this pin that you are part of the Swedish institute, whatever.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. We
I
have
know what I'm saying now. You guys,
yeah,
I know what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah.
So
And they also give us the opportunity to,
visit the palace.
to visit the Nobel Hall, actually.
Serious?
Yeah. So every of our diploma ceremony was done actually at the Nobel Hall. And some of us were actually lucky. Some of us were actually lucky to attend the Nobel Prize ceremony. Some people get the
Can you, guys? I'm bringing future Nobel Prize winner to this show. Let me just be putting it out there, so that you know that it's not small. It's not a small thing that we've been able to gather all these minds for you today. So, and I think we probably got into the second discussion now, really talking
No,
about your
Christian,
personal
please,
goal.
Christian,
Yeah.
before going further, I know that Victor made a very good remark about switching, from, I mean, having some kind of a training outside your discipline that could, that could give you some kind of edge outside. And I also want to remark that
Oh, okay.
as far as mathematics is concerned in Europe, if you're coming from that side to this side, there will barely be anything that will be very much new to you. In Europe, I had about 29 courses in 2 years, brother. It was pretty heavy. It was pretty heavy. So, and thinking of a regular master's in the US, whereby you take 3 courses per semester. So 2 years is like three times four, 12. So that's like, I mean, something relative to something in the board of half the number of courses I took in Europe. So at the time I moved to the US, and I think my very first semester, I was able to attend the joint mathematics meeting, not as a novice anymore, because the university nominated like 4. You know what I'm saying? At this point, I could go out not from the maths I learned in the US, but leveraging the one I was exposed to in Europe. So we do a lot of things. I mean,
Oh yeah. I think I say what I say not to take anything away from education in Europe. Sincerely, I mean, I've seen like Europe produce best of the best also. Uh, I guess one of the point I raised with Goshen earlier is the fact that if you look at, if let's generalize it, so let's remove the Ivy Leagues, like let's take out all the top schools and then just look at education standard across board. You would see that the US would slightly come out on top compared to Europe. And the reason for that is the fact that even though these Ivy Leagues, obviously, they're very concentrated in terms of what they produce, there's still a good share of funding, of resources that still go to even lower tier schools that allow them to, for example, like Goshen was saying, those kind of things allow those smaller tier schools to produce graduates that can even break into the top tier schools
sure.
compared to Europe, where I would personally say that if you remove the top guys, the standards seem to drop off. Like if you compare them to the top guys, that's the way I say it. Like if I'm to look at, let's say, the 200 ranked school in the UK to like the number 1 ranked school in the UK, you can't. There's no comparison.
Hey, that's the UK. You don't want to compare that to Italy or France
Yeah, true. So
or
it might be
Germany.
country based. Yeah, it might be
Yeah,
country based again. It might be
right.
country based again. So I guess maybe that's biased. And I think the UK is probably the only place I would say at least I've interacted with a lot of people from there.
Okay, yeah.
So but in the US, even though a school might be 200 and a school is like number 1, you could still see similarities in what they do. Even in they can still publish in the same place. They can still break it. They can still walk into the same door.
I mean,
For
and
this,
that was
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
and that
in
was, that
quote.
was something that took me some time to come to terms with. I mean, some will go to community college in the summer, take a course, and to be easier for the person to transfer the credits won't resume. Compared to those of us that went to Europe, you have to fill several forms. You have to tell you, show us the content of what you did in that course compared to what we are doing here. You know what I'm saying? And let me
Yeah.
see.
And that doesn't mean what you did there wasn't relevant. It's just
Sure.
like
I
it's
think
just the fact that
they trust
they built
their
their
own knowledge.
system.
Right?
Yeah, they
Their own
built a
knowledge.
system, and like I said, the system is well funded. Like
Right.
there are only very few countries in the world that can compete with the US in terms of the funding that is allocated to the NIH.
Trust me, I agree.
Like there are very, very few countries in the world that can compete when it comes to that funding, because it's just so intense.
I agree that.
What do you say?
No dispute that US has got like the largest funding base. Like,
No, trust me.
Oh yeah,
someone is
like
going to take that from them.
it's because it's a priority for them. Let me
Yeah.
put it that way. It's a priority for them in like in the fact that we have to be top in the world in leading these things. And I think for me, I always appreciated that. Okay, one of my bias reasons for coming to the US, and I think we're talking about personal goals and everything, was the fact that most of my mentors were in the US. So I felt like that was where I could be. Like that was where I could function. So there was that biased view of like, I know if I come into this system, I already have pace setters
Right.
So I'm not going to be starting from the bottom compared to if someone had thrown me in Cyprus. I'm going to be like lost. Not like I would not eventually find my ground there, but I think initially I'll be lost. I have a friend who's studying in South Korea, and I remember the first year, she told me she always used like Google Translator to talk to her roommate. And I would have imagined myself living in that kind of condition. And trust me, I'll probably be frustrated. Because I'm even in the US that we are speaking English with each other. I get tired. Not talk of a place where I can't understand what the next person beside me is saying. So I feel like those personal goals that I had in terms of my mentors were here. I think this is a place if I go to I won't struggle. Helped me shaped my my ambition in like I think I want to come to the US. And I want to be here. So for me, I think that then the professional goal of okay, I think I want to become a professor and I want to do it fast. And I knew like if I come to the US, I don't need a master's. I can just go straight from my bachelor's and just go get my PhD. And it's a system where you become an assistant professor easily, you move into associate, you can do all those things. And I always wanted to go to Ivy Leagues. So I was like, okay, US or nothing. US or nothing.
So I guess we shouldn't, I mean, like just to put it out there, maybe you can stress that a little bit. I mean, we are not trying to discourage anybody from applying to Europe or.
Oh yeah, definitely. I totally encourage applying to Europe.
So it's a number of factors as to like what is available, what is currently available for me.
And then what's your long-term goal?
What is your long-term goal?
Yeah.
Because you know, people's experiences will definitely be different. Like my experience will be different from Joshua's, from Victor's, from Michael, and from Kristen. So like, and that is the beauty of life. Like, if everybody's coming to say the same thing, I mean, it's boring.
Yeah,
but now, if I come and tell you, oh, I went from, I got the Commonwealth and my PhD, and then I went with the Commonwealth, and then I'm doing my PhD, and then Christian brings his own view. I mean, because like we are so much in the world, and everybody would definitely have different experience. So we're sharing these stories to tell people that there's no
one way to
one set path. Oh, you must, when you finish your bachelor's, you must apply to the United States, you must get into the United States, or you must go to Europe. So people don't,
unless you are talking to me.
People don't get worked up.
Michael wants to say something.
I think Christian is able to say this because he's in the US. When he was hustling in Nigeria,
exactly,
he didn't have this point of view. So
obviously, I didn't know those things now.
A particular place, there are some point of views that you have.
Exactly.
So someone that just graduated, apply to anywhere you can apply to. As long as you're doing whatever you're interested in, keep applying. Europe, Sweden,
Japan.
Anywhere.
Guys, apply to Japan. Japan they have a lot
as
of
long as they have a good,
I think,
good setup.
Actually,
MEXT, I think that's what they call that scholarship.
Next scholarship.
And also,
I think that's the only scholarship I've always wished I've gotten because their money is like ritualist. It's like
no. Listen, have you seen a Hong Kong PhD fellowship? Those guys too are balling. Hong Kong PhD fellowship.
So guys, please, we say that to say go to China,
Exactly.
go to Hong Kong.
Japan is actually really, really, really.
Yeah, and the economy is growing. It's a really nice place. Yeah.
I'm getting some offers from Japan.
Come to the US.
Someone is even telling me about like they really want my expertise in Japan, blah 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 blah.
Victor, come to the US. No, don't think about that. Just come to the US.
Yeah, come. We need you.
Just come to the US.
We need you.
Come to the US.
You are closer to Taiwan. So please come to the US if you understand what I'm saying.
I mean, Victor. I'm sorry. The last summer, when I had my interview with the guys at the National Lab, in my head I was, as fees, we get like $25 per hour or $20. So when I had an interview after they've asked me the whole physics, quantum theory, and blah blah blah, and we got to the salary stage. In my head, I was just thinking, give me $70K a year, I'll be fine. But when the offer came, the offer was in the neighborhood of like 90. I'm like, oh my goodness, these people, they have money here. Okay, like in like 2 weeks, you're getting over 3K. I was like, wow, US has the money. Like they have the money.
Oh yeah,
they have the money. So like Christian said, and working at the lab, and I remember during our orientation, they told us that They have a plan of over $2 billion yearly for the national lab, like $2 billion. So a lab that can confidently take 2,000 year in, year out. I mean, year in, year out, just to do
Sincerely,
science, just to do science we love doing. So
yeah, at university level, we might not see
sure.
the beauty of it. But when you go to like a national level type of research,
Yeah.
where let's say you're working directly like maybe the NIH, or you're working in like some of these national labs, you're working with like the FBI, the CIA.
Yeah.
I recently found out like they have like even militaries have labs like they're just testing out like how to create new night visions and stuff of those things.
Absolutely. They have different cores, and they
Yeah.
are into environmental research, medical research, engineering research. So yeah.
And guess what? One of the reasons they will pay you so well is because it's national secret. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, the one running the country. So please, but then
The
I
music
think
is
I just have
very,
something to say, actually.
okay, yeah. I mean, I mean, at this point, I think we don't have any questions so far, so we can just, I mean, start to round
Yeah,
up.
so I'm just going to speak about, I mean, the reason why I actually chose to come to Europe, Sweden in particular, actually, was actually beyond the professional,
Go,
so
you
to
had.
speak. Yeah, it was more about, is it a safe place for me to go to? Is it a place where my family, I can live with my family and it's easy for my family to kind of like coexist with my family? And another thing is there a chance for me to have like a work and, work-life balance? And Sweden was perfect. Sweden was just perfect for me. And Sweden is one of the most secure places on earth. That's another thing. And I mean, people can go out at any time. There's no issues.
Wait, is it not Sweden that you guys have a lot of bunkers?
Bunkers. Which one is
Yeah.
bunkers?
Like there's like all these underground bunkers, and I don't know, is it Sweden or one of these European countries?
No, it's private.
I don't think it's Sweden. Yeah, I'll check now.
Yeah. So I mean, so that was what's actually, I that was why I decided to go. There was a low crime rate. I could live with my family. I mean, my family would be safe. And also, actually, all the education here in Sweden, as long as you are maybe like a permanent resident here, or maybe you're working in Sweden, education is free. So I don't need to pay for tuition for my kids, from the lowest level of education to the highest level. I don't need to pay, So as long as I'm working, not even being a permanent resident of the country, just for working only. So I had that opportunity. So, and it was easy for me because of the kind of economy they had. It was easy for me to kind of like own a house without even have to spend too much, And so it was beyond, for me, it was beyond the professional career.
So it was more of a personal goal.
Yeah, it was more of a
and
personal
I think
goal.
it's sincerely, it's reasonable. I mean, people also move to the US because of personal goals. Like, I think if I come to the US, I will.
This
I'll make
guy,
money.
Honestly, I will marry. You want to? Some people call they want to marry and stay here and enjoy.
I mean, I heard that in the US that most people don't have health benefits in the US.
Agreed. I want to talk about that. Yeah.
But then, in reverse, UK has like also one of the most expensive healthcare system too.
Expensive is relative, my guy. Expensive is relative.
Yeah.
It's
So
very relative.
do you know that in Sweden, I did a surgery in Sweden and I spent $30 to do a surgery.
My own guy, Victor.
Don't try it in the US.
It was during summer, Victor. During summer in Italy, we were riding bicycle during summer in Italy. And the maker fell. He had bruises and rushed him down to the hospital. And they did X-ray, took X-ray, everything. Was there for one day. We didn't pay nothing. So I was having one of my very good friends, Abin Bola, when we were in Czech Republic, he had surgery of the nose, which would have cost like 7,000. He paid nothing. So the US, we pay insurance every year. I pay like 2,500. So I was having toothache. I went to the house.
It does not cover your tooth.
My brother, when they brought the bill $7,000, I told them I am well. In Jesus' name, I am well.
See, there's something they say in the US. In the US, one mistake you shouldn't do: don't allow ambulance to come and pick you up.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Wake up!
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So I mean,
the man that ambulance do. Choo. That's like $1,000.
Maybe someone calls 911. Please wake up and run.
Yeah.
Because you
So
pay
I
for the rest
mean,
of your
these
life.
these were some of the factors that I looked into that kind of like, okay, I mean, moving forward, I mean, beyond the professional career, this was,
Oh
that
yeah, I
was
think
There's so many reasons,
like
so many factors.
implementing personal reasons. I think it's a very good one actually. Uh, and sincerely, I think like Mike said, when you get into it, you then tend to like even be more objective about like decisions you make. For example, I stay in a place where we hardly have gun violence, despite all the news you see online.
Yeah,
We hardly have gun violence. Like I'm sure if you ask anyone in the US, that's the first thing that's coming to your US gun.
go on.
But yeah, we hardly, like I'm saying, we hardly have gun violence. But I can't say the same for some other part of the US. And that has informed my decision in like where I'm going to move to next. In the sense that I think I still enjoy that peaceful life of just being able to like go out and come in and feeling secure. I have friends in California that they've stolen their car like 4 times. California is like the number one ranked state in the country of car theft.
Okay.
So there are some of those obvious personal reasons. I think yeah, it's very valid. I mean, even you can even consider the kind of stipend you'll be getting. Does this money commensurate to like what my expenses would look like in this place before you even decide that you want to study there or you want to be there? For example, I knew people that because they know the scholarship was going to pay for their flights to travel down. It was one of the big factors that influenced their decision. Like, you know what? I don't have the money to do all of that. And these
Exactly.
people are ready to pay for my flights. They are ready to take care of me, TOEFL. Why should I worry about about those things when I don't have the money to pay for it myself? So those personalities are very, very valid in making that decision. Sincerely, I will not even dispute that it's not valid. The US, I think it's a bit expensive to get into
Yeah, yeah. I would
because you
agree
have
with
to
you.
do all these exams and pay service fee and do all of that compared to maybe if you have a scholarship that can fund it. I guess that would help. But generally, I think it's been a really, really nice discussion. Just jumping around. I still think I'm a very big US advocate. Go US, go US. Uh,
That is okay.
and I think one of my goals is really to work in any of the national labs. Sincerely, just be a researcher. Like
Yeah,
where you don't really worry about funding. You're not writing
exactly.
grants. You're not, just give me money, do
No,
my
no
research.
postdoc, no postdoc, no tenure track.
No,
Like yeah, all those tenure track.
no,
Let
so
them be
in the
stressing
lab,
themselves.
they also have in the lab, my observations. So speaking with a couple of scientists there,
Yeah.
so it's almost like a trend. They came in as intern, graduate intern, then they keep coming every year. Then after that, after getting their PhD, they come in as postdoc. So like if you get a PhD this year, then you're getting the job that year. You start with like 98, then the year after a PhD like 100 and something, 2 years after, but max of 3 years postdoc, then become a scientist, then
Oh yeah. I mean
become
that's
the
most of the research lab. That's how they run actually. Go from scientist
they become
to
what
I
they call
think
it.
senior scientist, staff
Senior scientist.
scientist. So they just keep going. They just use scientist, and I think I'm really okay with
Yeah,
that.
Just to
After
do
seeing all this grant processing, I think I'm
a lot
okay with
of
that.
a lot of things to consider actually. Do you want
Yeah,
to
but
go to the orders of postdoc, fighting
yeah.
for tenure track positions? How long are you willing to wait?
like
Are you ready to keep writing grant because your lab cannot function without money?
Without money, definitely. I think
yes,
that definitely plays into it. I think one of the things Victor even mentioned, because I mean, by God's grace, we're all planning to like have a family, settle down, and also putting that into consideration of where you stay or the experiences you gather really, really matters. Like, really, really help you to even say, okay, I think this is a better option than this one. Like, this is a good place to be than this place. So for me, I've like I said, one of my bias reason, and I'll keep saying this, is just the fact that I had mentors. I think that was the major reason. All my mentors, I didn't have any mentor that was in Europe. I think if I had, I'll probably be more motivated to maybe also try European application. But all my mentors were just like, "Guy, come to the US. Like, what are you looking for over there?" Like, so I was very narrow minded in that perspective. Let me just put it that way. And I'm happy eventually paid out.
Yeah, you paid out. Like, you applied and you got it.
Yeah, I'm happy eventually paid out. Now, please don't be narrow minded like me. Explore. explore. It's a deficiency. Don't be narrow-minded. Explore. Try out. We yesterday we spoke about a lot of scholarships you can apply to, and I think Goshen even put one out there today. PTDF.
Yeah,
I forgot.
PCDF.
I forgot to mention that yesterday. So please check out yesterday's video. We mentioned a lot of scholarships you can apply to Europe, in America. We even mentioned a lot on Discord too. Like for example, the Swedish scholarship Victor mentioned. We also mentioned MEXT, Hong Kong scholarship. So please make sure you check out those scholarships. They are really, really nice scholarship with good money. They
Yeah.
fund your trip, fund your traveling, and the requirements for these things are fairly easy. I think that was one thing I found out yesterday, that you just need to put in a good application. Like, they want us to see your CV, they want to see your transcript, they want to see what you've done, and these are things you can easily put together and start. See, preparation is key. Start preparing now till you get there. That's just a big thing. You can prepare to apply next year. So that will bring us to the end of today's show. I don't know if anyone do you have a message for people today? One message from each and every one. We'll take a message for the viewers, and we would close. We can start with Goshen since you joined first. So, what's your message for people that are watching today? We still have 2 days to go, so let me just say that.
So my message would be the first step to win is to first believe in yourself. Believe in your
About test
application.
time.
Deep with, oh, deep with that.
About test time.
Yeah, because like I mean, you can't just start doubting yourself from the get-go, and you when you start doubting yourself, no motivation, you don't have enthusiasm. But when you believe in yourself, at the very first instance, you get the motivation, you get the energy, you get the zeal to apply, and then you win. And that's
Yeah,
what
and we are here to share you on. So please,
yeah, exactly.
Joshua, please,
Yeah.
Joshua, simple English. Simple English.
So, I mean,
Before you start quoting
I'm not
sites,
quoting
it
it.
needs to
I'm not
now.
quoting any authority. Calm down, my guy. So I don't know. I don't know if I can capture it in one line, but like, what I'm trying to convey in here is to avoid a life of regrets. Just try. You know, I mean, I try as much as possible. I don't want to live a life of regrets. I'm going to give it my best. You know, give it my best. And if it doesn't come out as expected, I know that God knows I've tried. So this scholarship of a thing, this thing, just know that just give it your best. Write your best SOB. And some of us didn't figure it out, like Oga Christian, maybe Oga David, Oga Victor that had mentor. Some of us didn't have mentor because when I graduated in 2016, the only family name we know of in this scholarship stuff is Dr. Macaulay and Dr. Kelechi
Oh yeah.
Wakamike on LinkedIn. So there was no personal stuff. So thanks to God, it was only service I met with Futa people. I mean, I'm not saying that to massage your ego. So yeah,
No, say it
I
again.
met with the Futa guys.
Put it on repeat. Put it on repeat.
I met with the Futa guys and everything changed because I remember my first. I was saying the other day that my first photo was so weird. It was like a composition. My name is Joshua Olabajoke. I graduated with blah blah blah.
I did my holiday in Ikire.
so just try, give it your best. You know, create connections. Anybody could be of help, but avoid life of regret in general. Right, that's my own.
Oh, okay, Victor.
Yeah, okay. Mine is quite simple and it's kind of like relatable to me. So if you've tried and failed, if you've tried, you got rejected, if you've tried and there was no way through, if you've tried and it seems like there's nothing happening, if you've tried and it feels like there's no way forward, just dust yourself and just continue to move on and still try again. That's just this.
Guys, just keep trying. Just keep trying. Knock on the door. Michael, round it up.
Yeah, that's very similar to what I wanted to say. That just brace up. If you're coming on this journey, wear your armor because love letters are gonna come. Like,
and they are not from your boyfriend.
And what we mean by love letters, rejection letters. Okay, so no matter how good you are, Said came on board. I think day before yesterday or yesterday. He was very as a student. You know, almost 5 dots, but you know, he still got sorry.
What we mean by almost 5 dots, we are saying 4.98, so that you don't think he's not.
So
it's a solid CGPA.
Whichever stage you are, if they reject you, it means you know maybe at that time they don't need you there. Apply to other schools and don't do one. Right? Even if you've seen, for me, when I was applying, when I saw somebody that was doing Erasmus and I loved that she was traveling up and down Engineer Shimola, you probably know. Some of you
Well,
probably know. So I used to see her status. I wanted to get into
And you guys were
Erasmus.
close then.
And no, maybe not so, but I met her in the Futa debating
Yeah,
society,
yeah.
and she was the president. So I admire her, and I wanted to, get into that. So even mentors, you have to be careful, because mentors, she wasn't my mentor, but she had an influence. She didn't even know of this influence, right? So mentors can, in a way, influence your life, but try to be open-minded, right? Don't be like Christian. It worked for Christian, it might not work. So I tried that, but it didn't work for me, right? And I changed my perspective and applied to the US, and it did once from my first application. So try as much as possible to keep going. You will definitely have rejection. Say, sorry, don't
Yes,
don't
sir.
worry about it. You will get it, okay? But you have to keep going. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I think what I would just say is, because you're rejected doesn't mean you're not good enough. That's one thing you should always do. I think that's something I always thought, that, oh, I was rejected because I was not good enough. Because you're actually rejected doesn't mean you're not good enough. And the last thing I would say, sincerely, trust in God. Not in higher power, in God. Let's clarify that. Trust in God. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you guys again tomorrow. I think tomorrow is very niche for graduate students, so we're talking about surviving graduate school. So in case you want to prepare yourself ahead of time, please join in, and then we'll probably try to get some of our friends also to join in.